Alright, there's actually two ways to find the derivatives. Alright, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, good, the time between, whatever. Alright, anyway, now we are starting to learn the basics of derivative, the very basic derivative, which is finding the derivative using the power rule. What's how we find the derivative? There's two ways to find the derivative, alright? There is the regular finding the derivative, and there is which is dx, and there is another way to find the derivative, which is using the limits. All right, and yeah, using the limits. So, for example, give us an example where we find the derivative using the limits. All right. Let's say it's wait a minute. I will do the limits later, but now we are doing the power rule. All right. What is the power rule? Well, it is basically this: n, which is the exponent, and then x, which is the number, and then n minus 1. All right. How we define that? All right. All right. Let's just know how we define that. For example, if we have 3x squared, then we take 2 times 3, and then the x, the square thing, minus 1. So therefore, we're going to get 6x. All right. Let's just put it on equation. All right. Let's say we play with 10x to the third plus 2x squared plus x. How do you find this one? All right. Well, let's think about it. 10x to the third, that means it's a 30x squared, because 3 times 10 x, then 3 minus 1. All right. So we get 30x. 30x squared. All right. What about finding the 2x squared? Well, 2x squared, we get it as 2 times 2, and then x, 2 minus 1. All right, then we get 4x alone. All right. What about the x? Well, x, we get that it's actually to the power 1, and then minus 1, 1 times x, and then 1 minus 1, we know it's a 1 directly, all right, because anything to the power of 0 is equal to 1. Well, then how do you find this one? It's basically 30x squared plus 4x plus 1. All right, that's the answer. 4x plus 1. All right, that's the answer for this one. All right. Yeah. This one. Limits is a whole another thing. We can do it later. So that is how we find the derivative using the power rule. For example, let's just give you another example. Let's say we have a 5x to the 6 plus 3x plus 5. All right. How do you find this one? Well, 6 times 5 x to the 6 minus 1, we get is 30 x to the 5, and then 3x, we know that it's actually 3, so plus 3, because x is to the first power, and 1 minus 1 is basically 0, so anything to the 0 is equals to 1. So plus 3, and then 5, there is no power, so it's plus 0. So the derivative of this one, of that one, so the derivative of this one using the power rule is basically 30x to the 5 plus 3. All right. This is how we find the derivative using the power rule. I hope that helps. All right. It's written as d over dx. All right. So it's going to be written as d over dx For example, 5x to the 6 plus 3x plus 1. All right, and then we need to find the answer for this one. D over dx represents the derivative. All right. All right, and to find the derivative of this one, it's basically, as we say, it's 30x to the 5. Yeah, so it's basically 30x to the 5 plus 3. All right, finding the derivative of this one. And yes, that's finding the derivative using the power rule. All right, now I need you to find the derivative of this one. I need you to find the derivative of that one. Take around like a minute or so to find the derivative of that one. All right, and let's get to the answer. All right, it's gonna be 7 times 4 x7 minus 1, which is equal to 28. So first thing is a 28 x to the 6 plus 15, plus 3 times 5x to the 3 minus 1, and then plus 0. So the total answer is going to be 28x to the 6 plus 15x squared. That is the answer. All right, that's the answer for this one. And yes, that's basically finding the derivative using the power rule. There are other derivatives. Chain rule, for example, is a little bit tougher one. Yeah, another derivative. Sometimes you need to find the derivative of logarithmic. We're going to get to that later, but just this one is the basics for now. I hope that d over dx using the power rule is checked.